Question 1. In what ways does your media product use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? For my short film, I knew I wanted to explore the ideas of animation. I therefore looked at several short films using this technique. The short film Dot is about a character called Dot. She wakes up in a magical world and has to escape the destruction which is happening around her. The narrative was short and sweet, but very effective. I found this to be a convention of all the animations that I watched, largely due to the time constraints. You wouldn't want it to become overcomplicated. Once I had decided on the idea of a magical children's story, I needed to decide how I was going to create it. Birds is a short animation which uses paper and fabrics as its medium. I thought using paper would be a very interesting idea to explore, so I then went on to research other short films using this material. I watched an episode of Charlie and Lola to get a stronger idea of what was and what wasn't conventional of children's programs and short films. It too uses paper to animate with. I found that the colours were bright and often unrealistic. For example, the addition of talking floral multicoloured elephants were quite the norm. I followed this convention by creating my own talking animal, a purple Chelsea boot-wearing unicorn. Because my genre was a children's short film, I needed to make sure that mine was conventional and appropriate for children of this age. Charlie and Lola, like a short film, is fairly short in time, and therefore the storylines are fairly uncomplicated. In my own production, I felt I've done the same. I had no confusing plot twists, multiple plot lines or backstories, as this would not be appropriate for both the age or for the time constraints. The narrative, therefore, is very conventional. The protagonist India, after reading a magical storybook, finds herself in another world when she dreams. Once there, she meets the unicorn Miss Pancake and Princess Sunflower. The characters are fantastical, and they're highly conventional of the genre. However, the narrative does not follow one conventional rule. There is no moral message. Most children's films that I watched had a moral message. Even in several of the Charlie and Lola episodes, while they were not profound, a lesson was to be gained. I, however, focused on imagination and hopefully highlighted the importance of it through my fanciful and dreamlike narrative. Maybe the importance of developing and using your imagination is a message in itself, just a different type. Yet this still means that this cannot be considered conventional, as it is not the norm. Alongside our short films, we had to create a film poster and a film review. Before creating my own, I did some research into the conventions of children's film posters. Firstly, I looked at Disney's The Little Mermaid, then I looked at the most recent Disney film, Tangled, and then finally Disney Pixar's Finding Nemo. I definitely found that less was more. They all featured the title of the film and usually their tagline. The production companies would feature on the poster, as well as the release date. There are two things that I found with looking at specifically Disney film posters. One, that there was no billing block, and two, that the film title usually featured at the bottom of the page. At first I thought this was a convention of all children's film posters. However, when I did some more research, I found this not to be the case. For example, Spirited Away, Shrek, and Despicable Me all feature billing blocks. As with some of the other film posters, such as Princess and the Frog, which has the characters around the outside of the page, I have also included my other characters, Miss Pancake and Princess Sunflower. Unlike all the film posters I've looked at, the main character is the centre of the page. Most importantly, I feel that I have targeted both children and parents alike. I've used bright colours and bold imagery to appeal visually to the children, and included the key information for the parents who will be arranging to go and see the film. For my film review, I looked at several publications, firstly Sight and Sound and then Empire magazine. I found that Sight and Sound's vocabulary, layout and content far too formal. Whilst for me personally this is fine, for a target audience of children and their parents I don't think this is appropriate. Empire, however, was much more suited to a children's film. The vocabulary was a lot more colloquial and often humorous. Rather than focusing on technical aspects of a film, such as cinematography or the acting style, the directing style, I instead chose to focus on the characters, which was something that Empire did in their review of Tangled, and therefore is conventional of film reviews. However, as well as looking at the review of Tangled, I also looked at an article about Pinocchio. It was still fairly informal, as it was from Empire rather than Sight and Sound. However, it was different to your average film review. I particularly liked how it started the article, a short paragraph describing a scene from the film. Therefore, I decided to start my own film review in this way. I described a short scene from the tea party. This is essentially the only thing that goes against the film reviews that I've looked at. Visually, the film reviews bear an uncanny resemblance. I have similarly used bright bold colours, bold fonts, and as close as possible, kept the layout exactly the same. So I've used the little dots and the blocks of colour to separate pictures and paragraphs. As well as this, I've also ended with a short verdict and a star rating, which are both highly conventional of film reviews.